on the beat.
Zambezi, Zambezi. Ah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gio, and you're listening to the Paradigm Initiative podcast. Today's podcast is a little bit different because we're taking it out of the usual space we have it in. Today we are in Lusaka, Zambia, at the Mulungushi International Conference Center, where the 12th edition of the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum by Paradigm Initiative is happening. Today with us as guest, Gbenga Sesan. He is the Executive Director for Paradigm Initiative that has put all of this together. Hi Gbenga, how are you today?
Hi Gio, how are you?
So I guess I would know when DRIF is over.
Yeah, I can relate.
Sure. So we are in the second day of DRIF already. Yes. And how has it been so far for you? How has it been going?
I think it's been good. It's been good in terms of seeing, people. My favorite part of DRIF, by the way, is watching people connect, exchange notes, and sitting in some sessions and listening and seeing how the conversation is going. But also to see how everything comes together. There's a picture we have in our head of how everything flows.
Exactly.
The screen works perfectly. The Zoom works perfectly. Some of that didn't go exactly as planned, but I think overall it's been good. A lot of feedback already from people, and I can't wait for tomorrow night.
Okay. So DRIF is one of PIN's biggest exports.
Yes.
Right now, we're talking about events Paradigm Initiative
Yes.
does, so advocacy initiatives. DRIF is among the biggest. Can you walk us very briefly through this evolution? How did this come to be?
It was a natural thing. So in 2013, a few of us, to be precise, 13 of us, and it was a lot of coincidence that it was 13 people in 2013. But that makes me remember. Yeah. A few of us were working together on something. I'd written something called the Internet Freedom Charter for Nigeria, which I changed later because I can't write a charter. We can't write a charter to the Internet Freedom Declaration for Nigeria. And the basic idea was to marshal ideas about internet freedom, about digital rights, and then we met in Lagos. Actually, we first met in Abuja in August, and then we planned this grand thing because we had been talking, and it wasn't as grand as we wanted, obviously. But designing from Word to PDF and putting pictures was great. It was just the people that were not there, and then we decided to meet again in Lagos that same year. And as the conversations continued, each person invited other people about, oh, wow, we discussed this. I think it's useful for you. And by 2014, we called it Internet Freedom Forum in 2013, but it was just an in-house name. But by 2014, we did call it the Internet Freedom Forum. And over the years, it started growing. People who used to invite me to come and maybe do training in other countries, I then invited them. If you're inviting me to come and train in Uganda, then why don't you come to Nigeria for because at the time, it was hosted in Nigeria between the capital, Abuja, and the commercial capital, Lagos. But we knew things were going to change in 2017 when our work went Pan-African. And we began to have a lot more organizations who were interested in the work that we are doing. And so 2018, it became the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum. And like they say, the rest is now history.
Yeah, the rest is now history. And that definitely was a defining point in the history of Paradigm Initiative. Yes. But that is just one thing. There have been so many of these instances. And I want to imagine these are captured in the PIN book.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea.
Exactly. So So the book is titled The PIN Story.
The Paradigm Initiative Story, a work in progress.
And looking back at the entire journey, I know there have been some defining moments which are probably captured in the book,
Absolutely.
which is being released here at Drift, or which is being announced presented here at Drift 25. So can you walk us through just two of these key moments that are in the book?
I think the first key moment I'd like to talk about was when we set up an office, which is a very interesting story in coincidence, getting resources and all that. Yeah. So when we started in 2007, one of the things that I decided to do was to be deliberate about keeping records. Yeah. And at that time, I used to joke with the people who were working with me that just in case I write a book or we need to do a documentary, this would be the materials. But to be honest, I was just joking. I wasn't planning to write a book. And so when one defining moment was when in 2012 we set up an office. So before then I had Ogonwosu who volunteered to work with me, and I convinced him at some point to join as full-time staff. There was Korede Asuni, and then there were a few volunteers who were our students and came to work with us as interns. But at some point I knew that we needed an office. And how you know is when, because it started from my house in 18 Akinbola Street in Ilopeju in Lagos. And when we began to have meetings, we had a diplomat come to visit us, and you could see the confusion on his face when he came into, in quotes, our office, which was of course my own. And he was like, is this Paradigm Initiative Nigeria that I've been talking to? So at that point, 3 years on, I knew that we needed to start thinking of an office, but we didn't have money for it. So we still stayed in my home for a while, but then I got invited by one of my mentors for my birthday. She asked me to come to see her in Abuja, and said, okay, so what should your birthday gift be? And then the conversation went to her giving me a project to do for her, and I convinced her. I said, please, could I just turn this from a personal project to a PIN project? Because at that time I was conscious of institutionalizing PIN. Yeah. That project got us our first, led to us being able to apply for a grant with Microsoft, and then we got the grant in 2012, and then I reached out to Tokwe Ogundikwe. Yeah. I was Tokwe Adekola at the time, to say, hey, now I have some resources. I want to set up an office. Would you like to be my COO? And then a few other people to set up the first office. That was a defining moment. A lot of lessons in coincidence, in being deliberate, and also in keeping records. Yeah. Maybe a second time was when we wanted to start working across the continent. Basically, we wanted to start working I thought Nigeria was representing Anglophone Africa, and we should look for one country to represent for Anglophone Africa. But then I realized that Nigeria is not representative at all of the rest of Anglophone Africa, because you've got East, you've got Southern. And so I started thinking, okay, let's have Nigeria as West Africa, and then East and Southern Africa, and then Francophone Africa. So it was 3 regions at the time. And you know the way things are, when you start thinking about something, you start attracting. Yeah. It's like the universe knew. And then Google reached out, and Google said, oh, we have this thing called Google Policy Fellowship, and would like you to coordinate it for Africa this year. I think they were going to give us about 7 or 8 fellows. And I said to them, well, I can coordinate this, but on one condition, PIN gets 2. They were like, yes. I said, well, on the condition that the 2 don't have to be in Nigeria. Oh. And so they said, yes. I mean, everything was like, yes. Okay, why? Perfect. So one person was hired from Malawi, and one person was hired from Cameroon to represent East and Southern Africa from Malawi, and then to represent Francophone Africa from Cameroon. And that's a defining moment that led to us becoming what we wanted to do, which was to become a regional organization.
On the beat.
Zambezi.
Zambezi kunotirira mutima wa ubuntu ku Zambezi takulandilani Zambezi tirina mutima wa ubuntu ku Zambezi takulandilani.
We have people, we have organizations who are building their own story.
Yes.
Today, many of them still have this idea of, oh, I want to get to this level, or I want to at least do the beautiful things Paradigm Initiative is doing. But then others have that potential too, but they don't even know. So this book is definitely one which has as audience practically everybody, because then it's applicable for everybody. But somebody will say, why should I read the PIN book? Especially those who are in the civil society space. Why should they read the PIN book?
Oh, I have a very good answer. Hopefully it's good, if I can say so myself. You know, when I was starting Paradigm Initiative in 2007, I looked for books. And all the books I got were about Silicon Valley, and about for-profit organizations, and about non-profit organizations that had nothing to do with Africa. And it was a bit confusing reading about, like a joke someone shared with me then, that, Bill Gates became successful because his dad had a garage. He walked out of his dad's garage. My dad's car was not even working, so there was no garage. I didn't find relevant books, so I took to people. So I went to individuals. I went to my mentors at the time who were running non-profits, and, volunteered to work with them for free so that I could learn. And they knew what I was doing. I was learning from them so that I could start something, which I'd already started, but not as an institution. But I kept saying to all of them, why haven't you written a book? A few of them were like, well, this is work in progress. We don't want to write a book. And then it becomes a failure. What do you say about that?
Is that where the title came from, work in progress?
Yes. Partly. Yes. Okay. I knew you were going to catch that. And they didn't use those exact words, but the impression I got was that everybody felt that they were still building, and they didn't want to document. And I was like, no, this is when you should document. You should document a work in progress so that people can read the failures, they can read the successes, not after you finished succeeding, and then it's difficult for them to relate. So it was. I wanted a book at the time. I didn't have one. So when we turned 15, and people were asking me, oh, how did you do this? How did you move to this X million dollars in budget and things like that? I thought, oh, wait a second. I'd been documenting all these things. This is a good time to put this together. And the one reason why I spent 2 years writing, because I couldn't write full time. I had to spend 4 hours on some days, some weeks. I had only 2 hours. And over the 2-year period, what kept me going was very simple. There is a young man out there who is trying to build something bigger than Paradigm Initiative. And the people they are asking are either saying to them, oh, I'm just starting, or I'm still work in progress, or telling them stories that happened in 1984 that are no longer relevant. How do they get the relevant, in the moment, accurate information that can help them right now? And that kept me going. That somebody will pick this book, and the chapters speak to themselves. Before we started, I wrote about the pre-2007, before we started, I wrote about, 1995 to 2001, what happened at the time, the things that laid the foundation, because many times people don't realize that what is most important in starting an organization is what you did before you decided to start. Because those are the things that come together to strengthen you when you want to stop. How many times did I try to stop? Many times.
I was about to ask that.
Many times.
Because it's a work in progress. And thank you very much for deciding to publish the book, because then when it's a work in progress, there's a temptation of writing forever. It will never finish. I should add this. Oh, I should add that. And then it just keeps going.
Takulandilani Zambezi, takulandilani Zambezi, takulandilani Zambezi, takulandilani Zambezi.
But then we are here at Drift 25, and the book is being presented. It's going to be out very soon. Drift 26, are we getting another book?
No, I can assure you, you're not getting another book soon. I'm actually working on another book now, but it's not a PIN story. It's on digital ID, and then in 2026, I probably will start another project. But on the PIN story, I already have a few materials that I wish got in, but I already signed the contract with the publisher, and I sent in the manuscript, and I couldn't edit it. So those materials will be for the next edition, or maybe for version 2 of the Paradigm Initiative story. But you know what's interesting about not even just deciding to write this, but deciding what to keep in the book, because this was not the original plan. The original plan was to just write chronologically. 1995 to 2001, 2001, 2008, and I had those dates in my head. But as I continued writing, I kept looking at the materials, and some things were jumping at me. For example, while I was writing, I asked team members, what do you think I haven't written about? And I shared a few things I'd written. And beyond what team members said, and I realized that around a particular time, everybody kept asking me the same question. How do you get funding? How do you get funding? And I was like, wait a second, I haven't written about this.
Funding,
So I decided to dedicate an entire chapter to how we moved from the first Naira to the exact amount of money we had today. There were people, I had a few people who reviewed and like, Gbenga, this is too much information.
Exactly.
This is too much details. Why would you be telling everybody exactly how much you got? I'm like, guys, this is an audit report. We've been publishing audit reports since 2013. There's no number in this book that is not already available online and publicly. And in the book, I talked a lot about what appears to be a 5-year lock cycle for PIN. And I wrote about that because people think that, when someone has already received like $3 million or $5 million, they can easily tell you that, 100,000 is nothing. I wrote about what I honestly consider a 5-year lock cycle, that we get lucky every 5 years. And you know what? It was while I was writing that I realized that those 5 years coincide with the 5 years of our strategic management plan. And of course, it then made sense to me. The reason that happens is because every time we release a new plan, some of our partners see it and realize that we're ready for the next level. So a partner, for example, who gave us a maximum of $700,000 at some point, saw a new plan and said, you know what, we would like to commit to 5 years with something close to $3 million. And I was like, okay. And it was funny because the question was, what is your budget? And what is the projection for the next 5 years? And I say this because there's someone who's going to pick the book and go straight to that chapter, and that's fine. But there's someone who's going to ask the question, how do you grow income? How do you grow resources? You have to be deliberate. In the book, I wrote about how we got our first $500,000. It was a tweet. I posted a tweet, and the tweet was simply, what I will do with $1 million. Of course, I knew what I was doing. Somebody from a certain foundation, I'll leave people to read the book to know. Someone from a certain foundation had just followed me, and you know how Twitter is a snitch. It tells you someone has just followed you. I saw the name, I saw where the person was. I'm like, are you serious? I just posted that tweet because I knew they had millions of dollars to give. They had been tweeting about, they want to work in Africa, I posted that tweet, and that tweet was the gateway for PIN. They had already started a process to give funding to specifically a Nigerian organization and the Nigerian government to do a project on digital training for young people, And somehow we were late entries, but she saw the tweet, she retweeted, she wrote to me and said, you could join this bid. We joined the bid, and apologies to everybody we met there. But PIN got a grant. That was $501,000 for 2 years. That's how we expanded within Nigeria. That's how we started doing a lot of our training digitally. That's how we started developing tools. And that was the first time that I asked people who were already working with us and collecting peanuts, how much do you want to earn? And when I asked that question, it was, of course, a stupid question to earn, because when you ask how much exactly do you want to earn, they tell you something impossible. And I had that spreadsheet, and I went to the retreat that year. We started a culture of annual retreats very early. And we went to the retreat that year, and I said, listen, this is what, you've told me what you want. We can't pay you right now, but I can assure you that one day we will. And guess what? Another 5 years. In a 5-year cycle, we matched and exceeded that.
I feel like you already give me a lot of details. Like this is the book. We don't want to go.
We want to buy copies, right? There's a contract
they need to buy
with the publisher.
Exactly. The publishers not come after you saying, you've given us a book and you have told everybody what's in the book. So, the Paradigm Initiative story, a work in progress. Thank you very much for telling the story, Gbenga. It is definitely a work in progress, just like Drift. Drift is a work in progress. It's not over yet, and we definitely look forward to the presentation. And why not having you back when the book is available on the podcast? We can actually have a series of book reviews, maybe just discuss a couple of chapters.
Kunotirira mutima wa ubuntu ku Zambezi.
Thank you to dear listeners, a work in progress. The Paradigm Initiative story, a work in progress. That was Gbenga Sesan, Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, discussing the latest pin book, which tells the story of Paradigm Initiative from the ground to where it is now. Thank you very much for listening, and do have a great day. I have been your host, Gio.
Zambezi.